Well, I finally tracked down Thorn Spring, sort of. As you can see, Thorn's not a pretty place anymore. Enough of that, you've just seen what's happened. Now, it seems to me that the actual 11th century moated enclosure is in these woods, and it seems to be private land. We'll see what happens there, but certainly at the side of the road here, there's what they call a wood bank, which was the it was a boundary marker, basically. It's a big bank that now runs along the side of the road, and it was a boundary marker to say the trees on this side belong to me, bugger off, don't touch them, go elsewhere with your axe. Now, just to my left here, we've got our bank. Part of the moated enclosure, which was a little manor house. It was a Norman manor house belonging to the De Gurney family. You can see the bank quite clearly actually from the road here. I'm just going to wait for this bloke up here to get a little bit ahead, and we'll see if we can maybe get in there and find the actual moated enclosure. It is a scheduled monument. This bank is a scheduled monument, and so is the actual moated enclosure up in there. Now, it looks to me, having a quick look on the, well, quite a detailed, lengthy look to be honest, on various different maps and on the Google satellite image, it looks as though the actual moat itself is in somebody's back garden. One of the older remaining houses of Thorn. None of this new nonsense that's going on. I knew it was private, I knew it was going to be, but I had to come and see. So, this bank that runs along here is a scheduled monument, and up there in these woods there is the moated enclosure. I will quickly show you a little picture of that. One 11th century moated enclosure. Or an artist's impression at least, you know. Shame we can't get in there. I thought that would be the case. It's not the end of the world because we have got a couple of other things to look at just down the road. So, as I did quickly mention in the last failed video, this is kind of a failed video as well, isn't it? But at least we're getting a little bit more to what was going on here, you know, actually located something. It was given to the De Gurney family in the 11th century by Henry I. I think he was the son of William the Conqueror. And the De Gurney family owned a lot of land around here, and they went off into Norfolk and that sort of area as well. They were quite influential. Now, I had a quick look up because De Gurney, the D at the beginning, obviously, you know, gives away its Norman origins. I looked it up, it is a Norman name. They originally came from the town of Gournay in Normandy, which is where the name Gurney came from. Now, as I also mentioned in the last video, I've known quite a few Gurneys. There's lots of them around here. It's a very common name, and you see it in all the graveyards as well when you visit the village churches. I used to work with Arthur Gurney and his son Malcolm. You know, both very honest, straightforward working men. I wonder if they realise that potentially 900 years ago they would have been the ruling elite around here. Well, it's all very sad and disappointing. Just down the road here is what was supposed to be a little secondary spring, just a little bit further down the hill. But as you can see, all they've done, where they've built all around it, they've just dug it out into a big catchment area. Maybe it's a pond in wetter times, you know. But then over the road here, there's no outlet on the other side. They're just letting it drain under into that field, and if you look beyond that field, those woods there, that's where we were the other day looking for the spring. So no doubt, given time, they're going to drain out that field as well. Hello, Mr. DPD. Look, DPD, Amazon, UPS, and this used to be a sacred landscape. Anyway, yeah, no doubt, once they get onto draining out that field as well, that'll get built on too. But at least I have found where the moated enclosure is, although there's a sign outside it that says land sold. That's a bit worrying, but it's a scheduled monument, so whatever they do there, at least they're not going to actually, hopefully, destroy the actual De Gurney manor. At least I've been able to put things together. I can see exactly where I am in the landscape. I know what's where. I can see exactly where the spring comes in and joins the Ousel Brook and blah blah blah. It's helped me to piece it all together in my mind nicely. Now I looked up the name Thorn to see what it meant, and it's exactly what it says on the tin. Thorn, oh god, here we go. Who have we got now? Delivery drivers. Are you going to sit there and do that, or are you just going to bugger off? Good. Right, Thorn is very common. You've got Thornboroughs, Thornbees, Thorntons, Thorn, all sorts. And every single example I've found all basically just means thorn, place of the thorn tree. The only exception being, where are we? There's a place in Cleveland called Thornaby, which means place of a man named Thormuthr, or Thormuthr. I can't do that Scandinavian thing. So that's the only exception. Thorn means thorn, and that's not surprising because we've got Pittston just down the road, and the ton in Pittston also comes from thorn. And I looked up the meaning of the word thorn, as in prickly little thorn, as well, because, you know, if it's unchanged for that long and it features in so many place names in the UK, I looked up the origins of thorn and found exactly what I expected. It's Proto-Indo-European. So beyond Old English, beyond Old Norse, this is Proto-Indo-European. And thorn in Proto-Indo-European was stern, or something very similar to that. Knowing its ancient, earliest human language's origins, that word, I'm kind of curious to see what it is in Old Sanskrit, because of course our old European languages and Sanskrit all came from Proto-Indo-European. That's getting boring. I'm going to keep that to myself and do some research. Well, there you go. It's not a very pretty sight, is it, what's happened to poor little Thorn? You know, ancient settlement and part of a sacred landscape, all eaten up by new development, which is just, you know, it's the standard. They sell them as luxury homes and blah blah blah. They're made out of cardboard. They're terrible, and they've ruined some very beautiful places in the process. It's a real shame. You can see there's still these little old buildings knocking around here and there. Let's hope they do survive. I met a woman at work the other day. I was fixing a machine in a high street establishment, and the woman who was working there, who I was chatting to, she'd just moved to this area from Cambridge, to this new development, these new developments, and this comes roughly under, well, it is, I think it's under Houghton Regis, Thorn. It comes under Houghton Regis. She's lived here for I don't know how long, 6 months or a year or something, and she didn't even know how to pronounce Houghton Regis. She was coming out with Houghton Regis, Houghton Regis, and oh Christ. So there you go. Sad death of Thorn.